With Black Beacon's release, you might have noticed that there's a very generous selector available at the start of the game. As a result, I decided to break down all the 5-star characters you could get in said selector, and so without further ado, let's get into it. The first character we have to talk about is Arshon, and in essence, she's an on-field DPS, who in essence uses her abilities to stack up a specific resource, unleashes AoE damage with her additional abilities, and then caps all this off with a high damage ultimate. Now, as a result, one of her biggest pros is that, of course, she deals increased damage against bosses and elites. However, she is also mobile with her teleporting scythe. This is something that you'll see in the story in case you're curious, but it is actually quite helpful, especially if you're traversing through content. Now, in addition to this, she does have access to corrosion, which does allow her to deal additional damage to enemies specifically during this phase, but she isn't free of cons, however, as this does require her to commit to a lengthier combo to deal said DPS. Moving along, the next character that we have is Logos, and this is a hybrid DPS slash healer who builds cord echo stacks through skills and basic attacks, but in essence, the main focus of her kit is to generate notes that then deals damage while also healing her allies. Now, in terms of her pros, as you'd imagine, healing and dealing damage with her notes is a major plus, alongside another feature with her notes being that she can debuff enemies' attack with them. Now, like with Arshon, she does also have cons, and for her specifically, this is the fact that her revive is locked behind her 6th potential. In addition to this, her skill cooldowns can be kind of long if you don't manage them properly or keep them in mind while in combat. But next we have Viola, who's a disruptor who excels as a breaker, but really only offers value through her AoE damage through her turrets. Now, as a result, her main pros are that she can offer utility or damage while not on the field, and as mentioned previously, these turrets do have good AoE damage. Despite this, she does technically offer the ability to heal herself when she's below 50% health with each resonance diffusion, but the value of this may be touch and go since she isn't necessarily on field as often. Now, as a result, one of her main cons is the fact that her biggest value comes from damage and lacks true buffs. However, something worth considering here is that the AoE damage that she deals to deal with weaker enemies does allow single target DPS on her team to shine and not fixate on these additional enemies. Next, we have Nanna, who's another breaker who excels at dealing with multiple enemies, but this time around, Nanna is a character who rewards skilled timing and actually practicing her so that you can benefit from her kit. Now, as a result, her pros, similar to Viola, is that she provides off-field utility slash DPS, and like Arshon, she can also apply corrosion to enemies. Now, despite this, she does have a minigame where she needs to pick up her Moonblades, and this can actually be more annoying or frustrating to manage later on, as more and more enemies will spawn, and they may not be as easily defeated. Next, we have Lychee, who is a high-risk, high-reward DPS, however, he does have the flaw of damaging himself in exchange for one of the highest damage potential in the game. One of the most identifiable pros for the character is that they have extremely high DPS against a single target, and the fact that they have a significant amount of free stat in their kit. Now, aside from this, they are generally easy to play or easy to understand how to play in theory, but this is in addition to also performing quite well with elemental anomalies. Now, despite being a Danjin-esque very high DPS character, he does share the same flaws as a character like Danjin from Wuthering Waves, where you do require more practice or proper timing to perform high DPS. To add to this, Lychee does appreciate having a barrier slash healing ally to sustain his skills, but what's most important and the biggest takeaway from Lychee specifically is that they do require more investment than others in order to truly shine. Now, with all these characters broken down, in terms of who I'd recommend, I do think that characters like Arshon and Logos are high priority. However, following this, I do think that characters like Viola and Nanna are decent, but not necessarily amazing, especially given the incredible support cast that we have in the game. Finally, if you are someone that specifically likes a challenge or wants to play Lychee, I do think he is amazing if you decide to invest and play him well. But guys, given that we have an early selector, and this is a game that does feel like you will be rewarded for picking who you enjoy more, I encourage you to choose the character that you like the most in terms of design or playstyle, and not fixate too much about who's better or who's meta or more meta than another. As always though, that's going to be it for today's video. I'll leave you guys with a bit of footage of the combat of a couple of these characters in case you're curious, but as always guys, thanks again for watching. I'll see you on the next one. Stay safe, stay healthy, good night.
justice.